I'm going to tell the story today of a patient that I had when I was in the medical residency. And I was seeing her for the first time. I was checking, there was a routine visit that she had, and she was a local inhabitant of the area. The place where I did this residency is in Mexico. And to be more specific, in the area of Mexico that is in Minatitlan, Veracruz. Now, that particular place in Minatitlan is bordering with the tip of Veracruz, the state of Campeche, Chiapas, Oaxaca, and Yucatan Peninsula. So, this was a hospital that would see patients from all of that region. And in that region, we have the place of Chiapas. The important thing about Chiapas is that in here, there is still a group of native indigenous peoples called the Lacandones. These Lacandones are still living with their own costumes, and they still are there in that area. They are protected from their culture and they speak their own language. This is a public domain photo from Wikipedia taken in 1901. And my patient was a Lacandona. The language that they speak is related to the Maya Yucateco. So it's really hard for us to understand. There's no similarities to Spanish. And within the more than a century, the Lacandones have learned to live with contact with the external world. They do speak a little bit of Spanish. It's not uh, educated Spanish, but they can relate, they can communicate, they trade with the rest of the world, but they still maintain their own costumes and their own culture. Going back to my patient, she's Lacandona, and she is talking to me, and I'm getting a medical history with a language that would be understandable, and I'm trying to get her medical history if there's any diseases in the family. And that's when she surprised me because she said, "Well, we really don't have many diseases." Of course, she's speaking to me in Spanish. I'm speaking to her in Spanish, and her Spanish is limited. But she did say that her grandfather, her mother's father, she said, "I have been thinking that lately he may have developed diabetes." And she said this word in Latin. And I was really surprised and that she knew the disease. And that's when I asked her, "Well, has he been diagnosed?" And she said, "No, no, it's just I suspect it." And she smiled and she said, "Because when he pees on the street, all the ants are coming to the urine. And I guess it must be a very sweet urine." At that moment, I thought this was probably the cheapest and probably a very sensitive assay to detect early diabetes.